All right, good everyone. Welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Fourth and Long Podcast, episode 20. What did I title it? The final set.
Mhm.
Obviously, we have a lot to talk about. So we'll be only doing one show this week and probably one next week before the semifinal games. But how you doing, Jake? Are you ready for
Good,
Christmas?
how are you? Yeah, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. You've been working a lot.
Yeah.
You off on Christmas though?
Oh, yeah. And I'm off on Christmas Eve tomorrow, so.
That's nice. That's nice. Um, so let's kind of hop right into things. Obviously, there's a lot of things to say and a lot of things to go over. Um, I'll just kind of like come out and say I wasn't too surprised by everything. I'm kind of surprised by more what's going on in the background.
Yeah.
But on today we start with understanding sports history in the 1951 National Football League Championship at LA Memorial Coliseum. The Los Angeles Rams beat the Cleveland Browns 24-17, their first coast to coast televised NFL title game. In 1972, the Immaculate Reception Steelers turned around a 7-6 defeat with a last-second touchdown against the Raiders to win 13-7. Okay, so right after that, we're gonna head into some news. Luckily, we don't really have any much COVID news right now, but that kind of comes with the territory. Who knows? We could see that Trevor Lawrence pops up again tomorrow, hopefully.
Hopefully.
So, some news and notes. Obviously, I think we talked about it last time. Auburn fired Gus Malzahn, and I thought they made a really interesting hire. I thought for sure they're gonna go for Hugh Freeze or from Liberty or Chadwell from Coastal or Billy Napier from Louisiana, like a Southern school.
Right.
But they hired Boise State's Brian Harsin as their next football coach.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know much about the guy. I know that Boise was not very good this year, and they lost to San Jose State, who has turned the program around. So that's an interesting hire. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know much about him. Boise State always has a good program. Um, but it's almost weird when Chris Peterson left Boise to go to Washington. He was only at Washington for like 2 or 3 years, and then he kind of weirdly retired. So I don't know if there's other things going on there or not. But
Hmm.
next in our news, Michigan fires defensive coordinator Don Brown after 5 years program. This is basically just Jim Harbaugh cleaning house because either he's going to get fired or he needs to hire entirely different new staff. Don Brown wasn't the problem. The offense was the problem. Their defense has always been semi-solid. They weren't that good this year, but once you get on a team that has absolutely no offense and your defense on the field for more than 60% of the game, it's kind of over for you. So there's not much
Exactly.
Don Brown can do. I mean, he's a legendary coach, and his defense were always still really good at Michigan. So um, I just still can't believe they kind of haven't. There hasn't been much news on Harbaugh or anything because I
Mhm.
just don't see why he's sticking
They
around
keep
there.
him. Yep.
Yeah. The only COVID news we have is they knocked South Carolina out of their Gasparilla Bowl bid after the team recently had COVID issues. I'm now looking at a lot of the bowl names, and there's a lot of weird ones this year. There's a
Yep.
mayonnaise bowl. Um,
Seriously?
yeah, it's called
That's
the
weird.
Mayo Bowl.
That's
Um,
weird.
and then finally, Tanner Mordecai, Oklahoma backup quarterback in 2020. He backed up Kyler Murray. And now Spencer Rattler. He's transferring to what should be a wide open quarterback race at SMU, where Shane Buechele was obviously the quarterback last year, but he opted to enter the NFL draft this year. I have no doubt that he will go to SMU and be very good because that's what SMU does. They take old Texas and old Oklahoma quarterbacks and they put him in their offense first weaker. I mean, they can't be much weaker than the Big 12's defense, I guess, but
Right.
put him against weaker teams and they look good. So, um,
Hmm.
good for him. He'll hopefully get some playing time. I think he had a rushing touchdown in the Big 12 championship game, I believe, or that might have been Chandler Morris, but it's all right. But and now we get to the big happening happened last Sunday. The Final Four and unveiling. What are your thoughts on the Final Four? Obviously, the Final Four is number 1 Alabama, 2 Clemson, 3 Ohio State, and 4 Notre Dame.
hmm I just thought after the ACC championship game and seeing Notre Dame go up against Clemson with Trevor Lawrence just was like, please don't put him in because if the lowest they would have gone if they
Yeah,
had lost that, and then Alabama's going to stay at number one most likely. So
yeah.
it's like you're really gonna. They just did this. They lost this huge game to Clemson in the ACC championship game, and you really gonna put them up against Alabama, who's looks like they could be better than Clemson this year, and it's just like give someone else a chance at that point. Give Texas A&M. I would give Texas A&M or Cincinnati a better chance in a more entertaining game than Notre Dame.
I mean,
After that loss, I'm saying. I mean, that was a ridiculous loss.
I agree, but I think really the only two teams in America right now that can stick with Alabama and how good their offense is probably Florida, who showed that a little bit in the SEC championship game, and probably Clemson.
hmm
So, um, yeah, and if you look at Notre Dame's strength schedule, I mean, their win, albeit it was at home and against the Trevor Lawrence list, it still was a beating Clemson, and their win, their late season win versus North Carolina was huge for them.
Yeah.
North Carolina will probably either come into next year as a uh, top 10 team or like a top 15 team with a lot of young talent. Their two tailbacks are great. Their two wide receivers are great. So that was a big win for Notre Dame to get that on the road at North Carolina. And I almost don't feel bad for Texas A&M just because, I mean, they already got their shot at Alabama.
Yeah.
And they got killed. I mean, and granted, they did have Jalen Waddle, but I mean, they just got killed, and the only team I really think has a gripe anywhere is Cincinnati. Other than
Yeah.
that, I really don't think that anyone can really complain about it that much because I mean, Florida, hey, don't lose to LSU last week, and then you probably are still in.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a perfect point. Is with Notre Dame losing as bad as they did, if Florida didn't lose to LSU and they made it a competitive game against Bama in the SEC championship game, then you have a really strong thing for okay, we're going to give you a matchup in 2 weeks on New Year's Day. Like that
Yeah,
that would have been a perfect storyline for them. It would be like, well, you did this, now you have 2 weeks to prepare for them. What else can you do against them? Can you beat them again?
yeah. But if you were looking at Florida, they would have had to beat LSU and they would have had to beat Texas A&M earlier in the year as
Yeah.
well. So don't fumble versus Texas A&M, Florida, and don't throw a shoe against
Yeah.
LSU, and you are probably in the playoffs and playing a team that I mean, had there been, I would say, a minute to 2 more minutes on that clock in the
Oh,
SEC
it was
championship, I mean, it was going to come down to the wire. I mean, it could have got dicey for everybody there at the end
yeah.
in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So, um, it just, and people want to talk about expansion. Um, I'm okay with expansion. I think they would probably first go to 6 teams before they would go to 8, I would think.
Yeah.
But then it's always going to be the same issue. It's going to be the 3 seeds pissed they didn't get the 2 seed because they don't get to buy. Or, I mean, the 8, if they went to 8, the 9th team is gonna be like, oh well, why weren't we in? So,
hmm
but I mean, I think if you do go to 6 or 8, if you go to 8, especially, you can get all 5 um, Power Five champions in, and then you can also get a group of 5, one group of 5 team in, and then 2 at-large bids. So I think
hmm
that would be the way to go, but who knows?
Yeah.
But along with that, I think the committee did get it right.
Yeah.
I
I
didn't like what they said a lot, really. I mean, they basically came out and said that Ohio State only playing 6 games didn't matter, like, at all. Like, as long as they won yesterday, they were penciled in. So, or once they won Saturday, they were penciled in. So I was a little surprised by that. And Joey Galloway, who's one of the guys on ESPN, does the college football talks with Herb Street and all those guys. He kind of said, "Oh, Ohio State did everything. They deserved this. They earned everything they did." Well, Ohio State didn't really deserve or earn anything. They played 5 games. The Big Ten changed the rule And then so they got in. I understand why they changed the rule. I mean, every other conference would do the same thing for a top tier team like that. But and then like I guess the only other team I would say who I would also say has a gripe with the committee is Indiana. I mean, they're the 11th ranked team. They're not playing in the year six bowl. And they basically won the Eastern Division of the Big Ten and probably would have beaten Northwestern as well. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just Ohio State. I mean, they didn't look good. Trey Sermon looked really good, but other than that, I was let down by Ohio State, and I don't expect much from them in the playoff.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but I think that it's going to come down to another Clemson versus Alabama. I mean, unless Notre Dame can play up to the level they did against Clemson without Trevor Lawrence, then I just don't see them doing it again. I mean, that game was absolutely appalling when they faced Clemson again in the ACC championship game. It was just like, it was what we expected the first time if Trevor Lawrence had played against them in Notre Dame or at Notre Dame. It's just,
Yeah,
I just don't. It's shaping up to be Clemson versus Alabama again. I mean,
yeah. I
if
mean, it really ends up being that there's two elite teams this year. It's Clemson and Alabama, and personally, I don't think anyone. I mean, I don't know who it was. It was one of the college football guys, but they were saying like it doesn't matter anymore.
mhm. Justin, I think you might have accidentally turned off your mic because I can't hear you. No, like I can see you talking, but I can't hear you.
You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Nope, still can't hear you. Yeah, I heard you for like a second. No, I don't know if it's your cord plugged in or.
Got it.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, I pressed the button again too many times. So the Rose Bowl wasn't going to allow press. I don't think media. And they weren't going to allow families, and so they moved it to Jerry's World.
Mm-hmm.
But it really doesn't matter because there's still not going to be a lot of fans. There's going to be families there. I think the national championship game. I think they will end up selling a couple tickets because it's in Florida and they just don't really care.
Yeah.
But so I saw the news that kind of came out on Sunday. So I kind of went through and looked at basically the semis and the New Year's Six bowls, and then any other bowl games that I thought were pretty interesting because they're really. I mean, usually there are a lot of matchups that you can kind of look into, but so
Mm-hmm.
many have been canceled and so many aren't playing that it's just it's not worth it. So I kind of picked a couple of them to go over. If you want to add one or kind of just talk about any of them, just feel free. But we are going to start at the two semifinal bowl games. Rose Bowl in Arlington, number one Alabama versus number four Florida. Key player Ian Book, quarterback Notre Dame. What to watch? Landon Dickerson, Alabama center, who has started every game in the past 2 years for the Tide, suffered a pretty serious knee injury in the final minutes of the SEC championship and is supposed to miss the entirety of the college football playoff. I don't think it really matters that much because behind him is probably another five-star center.
Mm-hmm.
And it really doesn't matter when you have Devontae Smith, who is the best player in America, and you have Mac Jones, who's one of the better quarterbacks in America, and you have Najee Harris, who's probably the best running back in America. So,
Yep.
But I mean, it should hinder them a little bit. The reason I put Ian Book as the key player is basically just because, I mean, he needs to play out of his mind. I mean, they basically, if each team has 8 possessions, Notre Dame needs to score on all 8 possessions and maybe get a stop once, and they have a chance of beating them.
Yeah,
But other than that, I don't really.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it comes down to. And I think another thing to watch is Notre Dame's defense. Can they play up to that high level and stop this high octane Alabama offense? I mean, you know, hold Najee Harris to less than 4 yards a carry, and make sure Devontae Smith is not running wild, and you don't leave him single covered. You know, they need to double cover him.
Yeah, but that means that also Notre Dame has to have extended periods of long drives for their offense, and I just don't see that happening. So, I mean, obviously, we'll get into our predictions probably next week for the semifinal, and we'll do some of our predictions and picks and locks this week for all of bowl season to get those out of the way. But yeah, I think basically it was the committee. I mean, they don't think so, obviously, because they're the committee. But as soon as they put Alabama number one, and there was kind of a fight to play for number four, it was like who's coming up to get slaughtered by Alabama. I mean, Alabama's
Mhm.
almost a 20 point favorite. I mean, it's not as bad as when they would play Oklahoma or things like that, but a 20 point favorite in this semi close of a year is, I mean, I think I actually, I mean, one of the high takes is I think that they'll be favored by 10 to 14 in the
Yeah,
national championship if they play Clemson. If they played Ohio State, I think they would be favored by probably more than Notre Dame.
yeah.
So,
I mean,
but
I agree with that. I just think that people are going to say, "Oh, Notre Dame's going to come back strong," but I just don't think so. I think it could be a slaughterfest like it was a couple years ago.
yeah, no, I mean that's fine. Like Notre Dame pops up once every 3 or 4 years, like they did 2012 with Manti Te'o, 2015 or 16 when they made the playoff last time and got killed, and now this year. So I mean they can pop up every 3 or 4 years. I would be happy with that. I'm fine with Notre Dame popping and changing it up. I mean it's better than Oklahoma this year,
Hmm.
who somehow still made a push at the end, but we'll get into that. And
Yeah.
then the next one I have is the All-State Sugar Bowl, played in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, I believe, in New Orleans. Number two, Clemson versus three, Ohio State. The key player is Justin Fields, quarterback for Ohio State. One thing to watch: Chris Olave, Ohio State's leading receiver, could be back for this matchup as long as he continues to test negative. I don't know why I put positive. Ohio State's passing attack in the Big Ten championship was all out of whack without Olave. It also sucked that Justin Fields had a sprained thumb or a broken thumb or whatever. So I don't know how much better that's going to be able to get because usually we have almost a month to get into the bowls and then get into the semifinals. But I mean, they're already coming next week, so um, it's a much more quick back to back than, so you don't really have much time to heal yourself. But
Right.
Trevor Lawrence was awesome against Notre Dame. Threw for 322 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a bad interception in early on to Kyle Hamilton. Um, but after that, I mean, they just dominated. It felt like I don't know if you watched it, but it felt like the score of that game was 24-3 for like 3 quarters
Yeah.
of the game. But they ended up winning, I think, 34-3.
Hmm.
Yeah. So Trevor Lawrence also showed that he can run. I think that they'll do a lot less of that. Dabo will a lot less of that in the semifinals and the playoffs because I mean, no, maybe not because I mean, Ukulele proved that you can play against Notre Dame. So,
Yeah.
but against, I guess, what if against Ohio State, I think they'd be okay with Ukulele, but against Alabama, you obviously want Trevor Lawrence. But
Hmm.
yeah, so I think right now I'm leaning heavily towards Alabama winning and Clemson winning. But like I said, we'll give our predictions for that next week. I don't know if things could change. I would love to hear if Chris Olave is for sure playing. I love to hear if Baron Browning is playing. I'd love to see if True Christmas playing, their punter. These guys were all out versus in the Big Ten championship.
Hmm.
So, but we'll see. But that's what I'm leaning right now. I think you're kind of feeling the same way. Am I right?
Yeah. I mean, if Chris Olave plays, it's a completely different story for Ohio State, and I think it's a lot closer, and it can come down to the wire like it was in the SEC championship game. But I just don't know. Ohio State's defense also has to play out of their mind. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is back and at full strength now. He was really impressive in their win against Notre Dame in the ACC championship game, which we all thought was going to happen. You know, and then
Yeah.
Alabama. I don't think Notre Dame really stands a chance at all. Even if Ian Book has a game out of his mind, I just think Alabama's just way too good this year. And as you said, they have the two best players in the country, almost three best players in the country at their own position.
They have three of
And
the five. They have three of the
Yeah.
top 5 best overall players. They have 3 of the top 10 best overall players in college football.
Oh, absolutely. And to be honest, I know we'll talk about it probably later on in the podcast, but everyone's saying Devontae Smith is a sure win for the Heisman. But what about Najee Harris's performance? Rushed for 5 touchdowns in the SEC championship game. Like that's just and set all those records. Like, and I understand Devontae Smith has had like more of a track record, but as we said earlier on in the year, the award really comes down to what have you done for me lately? And Najee Harris is making a strong case to be in that top conversation.
Oh yeah, I mean the 2 best players for Alabama out of the 3 aren't going to win the Heisman. The third best player is going to win the Heisman.
Mhm.
I would be shocked if it went any other way. Even though I could see in a weird world where Devontae Smith does win, or Trevor Lawrence does win, because Trevor Lawrence would win, just because it would be a career award at this point. It's kind of like they should have just given it to Tua last year.
Yeah.
Because no one knows what the Heisman means anymore, really. So it should have just been a career award. But yeah, Devonta Smith accounts for more than half of Mac Jones' passing yards and more than half of his touchdowns. So that's a pretty big stat. So I think it'll finish by somewhere in that order: Mac Jones, Trevor Lawrence, Devonta Smith, Mac Jones, Devonta Smith, Trevor Lawrence, somewhere like that. And I really think they'll probably only name like 3. I think it'll be Mac Jones, Lawrence, and whatever one Alabama player wants to go.
Yeah.
Kind of like Ohio State last year, except they have 4. But so that's the Sugar Bowl. So we'll go on to some other games. A lot of these are the New Year's Six Bowls, but some of them are not. One of the other teams that I do have to say I would have a gripe with the committee a little bit is Coastal Carolina. They do not get a New Year's Six Bowl because they are 12th and Cincinnati was 8th. And so the non-Power 5 goes to Cincinnati, which is kind of ridiculous, but it is what it is. This one's interesting because there is a real possibility that both these teams could come into this game, Liberty versus Coastal Carolina in the Cure Bowl, with no coach. Like they both could have already moved on and gone somewhere else. So I think I don't know if Chad will leave this year, but I think Hugh Freeze is for sure going somewhere. So that'll be interesting. The key player to watch is Malik Willis, the quarterback for Liberty. What to watch? Rest versus Rolling On is the name of this game. Liberty hasn't played since November 27th, and this is Coastal Carolina's first bowl since they joined the FBS in 2016, but they obviously were supposed to play that weekend when Coastal ended up playing BYU, and the weekend before that was the last time Liberty played, and Coastal has now played at least once, but I think Coastal is a pretty... I haven't looked at the line, or I might have it in the line down there, but I'm not going to scroll all the way down to look at it. But so yeah, I think Coastal will take care of this one pretty easily. I don't know where the Cure Bowl is. I never heard of the Cure Bowl, so I don't know. But if you know anything else, we'll move on to.
I just looked up. It's played in Orlando, Florida, at the Camping World Stadium.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yes.
It's one of those games in my mind that should be closer than it is, but at the same time, I feel like Coastal just going to come out and just play better.
I agree. And like I said, I would not be surprised in the least if Hugh Freeze is now already gone at Liberty by that point. So, and probably the best matchup outside of the semifinals, in my opinion at least. The Cotton Bowl in Texas, Oklahoma number 6 versus number 7 Florida. We talked about it earlier, but I mean, Florida, you don't fumble versus Texas A&M, and you don't throw a shoe versus LSU, and you're probably in these Final Four playoffs. And Oklahoma is kind of the same way. Like, don't lose early to bad teams. But I have a key player for this one is Kyle Pitts. I did a little kind of like write up on him in one of my articles. He's different than any tight end I can remember in the fact that he really is. Corners can't guard him because he's too big, and linebackers and safeties can't guard him because he's too fast. I think he's more of a receiver tight end than a tight end receiver. Whereas, like, I look at a guy like Gronk, and Gronk is definitely more of a tight end. Pitts is actually okay at blocking, from what I've understood, so I've seen mock drafts where he goes up as early as 3 or 4. Like, if Cincinnati's picking at 3 and Penei Sewell goes to the Jets and they don't have the quarterback at 2, I wouldn't be surprised if Kyle Pitts goes to Cincinnati. I mean, they got to get him. They got to give Joe Burrow some. I mean, if you're Cincinnati drafting this year, you either are drafting Penei Sewell or you are taking the best offensive player on the board that's not a quarterback, because you have to get him some help around there. So,
I mean, I think out of all the games, it's one of the more entertaining games. You know, we're going to touch base on some down the line that could also be more like equally entertaining. I think this is one of the years where the New Year's Six bowl games, or even bowl games just in general that are being played, should be a lot closer than
I
they
think
have
there's
been in
going
the past.
this
Like,
is one of the years I'm going into it. I'm looking really forward to the gambling aspect of it, because it happened kind of because it happened kind of in the like the last time I remember it was like when Cincinnati was really good, when Brian Kelly was still there, and it was obviously back in the BCS. But when Brian Kelly was still at Cincinnati, and then when Blake Bortles was at UCF, I mean, they would go and they would be like number 11 or whatever, and they would play Oklahoma, Georgia, Florida, Texas, one of those guys, big guys, and they'd be like, I mean, they've changed a lot of it nowadays, but I mean, they would be like 35, 36 point favorites. And it was such an easy bet because obviously these smaller teams that come into this, they means more to them. I mean, it's just obvious. So, like, when the Blake Bortles led UCF, who didn't get to the national championship because they like lost a game or they were undefeated and they didn't get to one, they're very motivated to go play in that game. Versus, I think they actually played Alabama that year. Maybe, I don't know, but and they won. I mean, they won. So I'm looking forward to that. And I also think that it's just a lot of these bowl games are going to come down to like, I mean, who just wants to be there more? And speaking of, I mean, the next bowl I have on here is the AutoZone Liberty Bowl between West Virginia and Army. It was a crying shame that all the bowls went through every single team in the FBS basically, and didn't invite Army, and then everyone else said no to them, so then they finally invited Army, which is ridiculous because it obviously means a lot to them. A huge player watching this game is John Radigan. He, what is the Nagurski? I think's the Dick Butkus award. He's one of the finalists for the Dick Butkus award. He's a linebacker. Army definitely doesn't have his best offensive team that they've had in a long time, but this might be the best defensive team they've had under Jeff Monken. Like I said, it's their second chance after being passed over for a bowl opportunity. The first time around, they finally got a bid to play in the Liberty Bowl. And you can bet like how those men will be motivated from the opening whistle. So I'm interested to see what that spread is. And like I said, we'll do picks and locks, but this is more of a time when, like, oh, the game's coming on at 3:30. It's 3 o'clock. Let me check and see what the line is, see if I like the line or whatever. Yeah. So I think that's a big one. Do you have anyone that I didn't list that you want to kind of say?
Well, I did, but they played last night, I believe.
Talk about it. I have not watched a single bowl game. I didn't know they started already.
Yeah, they had the BYU versus UCF game yesterday, and So you knew. I mean, I'm going to talk about it. I mean, Zach Wilson just looked like he was back to the Zach Wilson everyone saw before the Coastal Carolina game. I mean, he just looked. He was making the right reach. He was making tough throws on the sideline. It's just BYU this year really fell off at the end of the year. They had, they lost games they should have won, and at the same time, they went into this game. You could see that they had a sense of, you know what, everyone disrespected us, but we need to come out here and really do it strong. I mean, Zach Wilson went 26 of 34 for 425 yards and 3 touchdowns, and Zach Al-Jair had 19 receptions for 173 yards and 1 touchdown. That's just crazy.
You mean Tyler Algier?
Yeah, that's what I said. I said Tyler.
You said Zach.
Tyler Algier is who I meant,
and he also didn't have receptions. He had rushes.
Sorry.
Yes, he had 19 carries for 173 yards and a touchdown. Yeah. And Isaac Rex was the leading receiver with 5 receptions for 96 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Zach Wilson, especially after that performance, like I said, I didn't watch it, but he's gonna keep. He reminds me of Baker Mayfield. He's gonna keep going up draft boards. He will never pass Trevor Lawrence, but there's a chance he could pass. Because I don't think the Jets would take Justin Fields, but I think they would take Zach Wilson.
Well, no, the Jags are now.
That would be terrible for him.
The Jags are now projected to get the number 1 overall pick.
I know. That's why I'm saying.
Yeah.
The number 2 Jets, I don't think they would take Justin Fields. I don't think anyone would take Justin Fields at 2 at this point, unless you already have a quarterback and you're fine with it. I think we'll go to the Panthers at 4 and sit behind Teddy Bridgewater for a year. But yeah. So I forgot what we were talking about. But
we're moving on to the Georgia Peach Bowl.
Oh yeah, your BYU guys. Yeah, your BYU guys. I forgot, but yeah, they have another All-American. I think they're left tackle or the right tackle, Brady Christensen.
Right tackle, Brady. Yeah.
Yeah, he'll be a first-round pick next year.
Yeah.
He's gonna win a couple awards. He's on my first team All-American team. But yes, we hop into the Georgia Peach Bowl with Cincinnati versus number 9 Georgia. A player to watch this year in this game is JT Daniels, the quarterback at Georgia. If Kirby Smart, I don't know, decides to play him again. The Bearcats had a perfect season for head coach Luke Fickell, yet they really didn't even get a look over to play in the Final Four. Georgia could also possibly be in the playoffs right now had Coach Kirby Smart decided to play JT Daniels a couple weeks earlier. It's a little bit different, I think, because I think even with JT Daniels, I still think they lose to Alabama in the regular season. And they probably still lose in the SEC championship game. So they would have 2 losses, but had, like we said, had Florida been from the East, didn't have to play Alabama this year in regular conference play, had no losses and lost like that to Alabama, probably the best team in the country.
They would automatically be in.
I think they would have easily been in over Notre Dame, I think. But I think they would have changed it up. I think they would have put then Florida at 3 and Ohio State at 4.
Yeah.
They just don't want rematches, which is obviously they didn't want there's no reason that Ohio State should be number 3.
Yeah.
Ohio State, really it's Alabama and Clemson are number 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then 5 and 6 are Ohio State and Notre Dame. But that's beyond the point. So this should be a good game. Like I said, Cincinnati's one of those teams I was kind of talking about that I think will come out really motivated and ready to play. But Georgia, with quarterback JT Daniels playing, is probably one of the top 5 teams in the country, and I don't know if they can beat them on a neutral field.
I agree with that.
You're agreeing today a lot.
Yeah,
because we're smart. We're normal people. It's common sense.
Yeah, it's also I've come to the realization that I wish Florida again hadn't lost to LSU. I think Texas A&M was kind of a trap game for them at the time because A&M was very underrated at that point, and that was kind of the game that turned their season around. So I just think I'm coming down to the realization, I'm just happy BYU won their bowl game yesterday. Again, I didn't expect them to be in the conversation for a top four team, even if they had won out and not lost to Coastal Carolina, because their schedule was too weak. And Florida, again, they had those two losses, and you know, they I'm just glad that they got a bowl game this year. To be honest, at that point I was wondering, are they even going to be considered for a bowl game if they with everything they've lost this year? So
Yeah, Texas A&M had it really rough. So on October 3rd, that must have been a Saturday, they played and got killed by Alabama,
mhm.
52-24, and then the next week they played Florida and beat Florida. So, I mean, going 1-1 in those two games back to back is pretty darn good. So,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, exactly.
but like I said, I think the committee got it right still.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I mean, as we've said it all like a couple times now, if Florida doesn't lose against A&M, if they don't lose against LSU, and the only game you lose this year was a close one to Alabama, and you showed that you could stick with them, that's
Yeah.
I think the only way they made it in.
I wouldn't even have been surprised because it was so close. But I mean, had it even been just like maybe a little bit closer, I wouldn't have been surprised if they kept Florida or moved Florida up to 2. I mean,
Yeah,
Clemson's win was good, but it was still only 31 points. I mean, sticking with that Alabama team with that offense that they have and that offense, just imagine being the offensive coordinator for that team.
yeah,
Steve Sarkisian, who, of course, is not a very good coach, but looks like a very good coach because he has superstars around him. I mean,
exactly.
but that's beyond the point. But yeah. So, like I said, we can got well. I'm sure we'll keep going back and forth on this could have happened, this could have happened, this should have happened, this should have happened.
Yeah.
But in the Georgia Peach Bowl, I think it's close throughout like 3 quarters, and I think Georgia wins by like 10 or 12.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, JT Daniels is looking like a really good quarterback, and that Kirby Smart, for whatever the reason, kept him out for, and no one's going to know until after the year's over.
Well, first of
But
all, we're gonna be the first ones to know, and we'll
yeah,
tell all of you.
exactly. But
And if we
I
don't
think,
know, I'm gonna make up a story, and then it will become real.
yeah, we're going to speak it into existence.
Exactly.
But I think you're completely right. I think this could be close for a couple quarters, and then Georgia just at the end, they're up by 7 and they either break off a huge pass or break off a huge run that scores a touchdown. And then it's kind of like you see Cincinnati be like, well, we had a hell of a run, but this isn't our year.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I don't unless Michigan or I don't think it would Michigan unless Penn State opens up this year. I highly doubt Fickle's going to go anywhere.
Hmm.
Um, which is kind of playing with your money a little bit because I mean he will probably get the best job offer that he's ever going to get this year. It just might not be one of the best teams because they're not open this year.
Right.
But to be on the point, he's still a great coach, and I mean, Cincinnati. I mean, losing Desmond Ritter, they have a lot of young guys, but losing a quarterback is, I mean, it's the truth for Texas A&M too. It's just breaking in a new quarterback at schools that aren't Alabama, Ohio State, and Clemson is not as easy as everyone thinks it out to be.
Yeah.
Like Texas A&M is gonna have trouble replacing him. I mean, everyone thought that Spencer Rattler was gonna come in and be Kyler Murray, but better. But I mean, he struggled at points this season too. So, like I
Hmm.
said, if you're not from Clemson, Alabama, and a little bit distant Ohio State, who've just had a recent string of good quarterbacks. But if you're not those guys, it's not easy to break in a new quarterback. And without a quarterback, I mean, quarterback's the most important position in football.
Yeah.
I've decided that my 3 most important positions in football are quarterback, defensive lineman, and left tackle.
Or right tackle, depending on if your
Yeah,
quarterback's left-handed
yeah.
throw. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
depending on your offenses too, because I mean, if you're more of a running team, I'd
It's
rather
going to
have
be a guard. For me, it's
yeah,
going to
but
be a guard.
yeah, like I would take Quentin Nelson over probably any tackle in the league right now.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe he's young too. What's his name? Ronnie Stanley from Notre Dame too. Notre Dame just
Mhm.
produces these guys. Mike McGlinchey is he's a right tackle. I don't know who he
Mhm.
plays for, but he's 6'8" and he's a tackle and he's a run blocking tackle. It's crazy. Obviously, you can tell I've been playing Madden.
Yeah. I mean, he plays for the 49ers, but it's just crazy how year in and year out we just always for some reason the Notre during draft time Notre Dame linemen just sneak up in the draft.
See,
They're just
maybe
like
maybe in the off season we'll do like a whole episode of like our Mount Rushmores and then like do the best position groups from what college. Like you got your Notre Dame tight ends, you got your Notre Dame offensive linemen,
yep,
you got Ohio State receivers and running backs and defensive ends. And then
yep.
you have your
Alabama
Alabama,
has you have some linemen and then your linebackers.
yeah, kind of like that. And and then this year your quarterback and your
Yeah,
receiver and
yeah.
but yeah, we'll have to do that. We have a lot of ideas for the off season. Like I said, we'll get into more what we're going to do during that. But
Mhm.
we still have a
Well,
lot of season left to play in this one, and
yeah. I mean,
we'll,
I'm if you want me to do it, I can take over the Citrus Bowl. It's
okay.
Auburn versus Northwestern. I agree with the player of the watch, Brandon Joseph, for the safety out of Northwestern. It dude just insane. I mean, the way he breaks on the ball, the way he makes an open field tackle, it's one of the most underrated safeties I think in the league right now.
He's a
For
true
NC
freshman.
yeah, and which is crazy. He just his instincts towards the ball are crazy.
I mean
Um,
that interception off Justin Fields, granted, wasn't a good throw. I mean that was the Odell Beckham of interceptions.
yeah, it
Like I
really
don't
was.
even, like Gus Johnson was calling it, and he picked it off. And I don't think they even realized it for about like 5 seconds, and they're like, "Oh my god, he caught that!"
Yeah.
But
And then the what to watch. Northwestern has to be disappointed with how the Big Ten championship game played out. It didn't go in their favor, but they dominated the game for a full 2.5 quarters. Rest assured, though, Pat Fitzgerald's men will be ready to play on game day. Auburn just hired Boise State's Brian Harsin to become their next head coach, so this will be no tryout for Kevin Steele, who will be the interim head coach in this game.
yeah, and the weird thing is Auburn's going to be ranked top 10 next year in the preseason.
Yeah, they will be.
They're bringing back their quarterback and their freshman running back from this year. So, yeah, they're going to be top 10. Um, I actually think Northwestern wins this game. Um, obviously, Kevin Steele is going to be the interim coach. He's going to make some weird play calls because it doesn't matter. I mean, I don't know if
Yeah,
you saw the Giants-Browns game
I did.
on Sunday night, but I mean, well, Freddie Kitchens is an idiot, A, and B, Freddie Kitchens, basically Joe Judge had told him before the game that was like, we have to win this game and we don't have a quarterback and we have to do things to do it. So they tried that fake, stupid, stupid fake field goal and they
Mhm.
tried like a fake punt and things. So I
Yeah.
could see Kevin Steele kind of doing that thing, or even just like auditioning for other jobs basically, but he's not going to care much about this game for Auburn. And to me, I mean, it sucks if you're Northwestern, then you have to play Auburn. Like Northwestern had a really good season. Like
Mhm.
I'd rather see them play. I don't know. I guess Auburn's okay, but I can't think of any SECs.
Yeah.
I would have really liked to see. It would have been a good matchup, or it wouldn't have been a good matchup, but it would have been interesting to see Northwestern play Florida because I think Northwestern's secondary is probably the best in the country. And
Yeah.
it's just interesting because I still think Florida would beat him by a lot, but it would be interesting to see how much better a very good passing offense is versus of like the best passing defense, I would
Right.
say. So, and then it would also be cool to see like your best rushing defense versus the best rushing offense.
Yep.
Which I think Alabama's like top in rushing in.
Yeah.
So,
I feel that.
but yeah, I'd love to see Northwestern win. I I think Pat Fitzgerald will stick around at Northwestern for at least another year.
Mhm.
I don't know how he hasn't gotten any other offers. and things like that. But yeah, you can go ahead and take over the rest of them.
Yeah. So the next game we have up is the Outback Bowl, Indiana versus Ole Miss. The player of the watch is Jack Tuttle, the QB for Indiana. What to watch? Indiana might have a minor gripe with the committee about the selection. They technically finished first in the Big Ten East and never got the chance to play for the title. On the other side, Ole Miss offense might be the best in the country with a lot. Elijah Moore has been amazing for the Rebels along with quarterback Matt Carroll. I mean, that duo this year has just been insane. I mean, people were saying that he could actually make a potential run for the Biletnikoff Award as the best wide receiver in college football because of the numbers that it was putting up.
Well, in literally any other year, he would win.
Oh yeah, I mean this year he had to go up against Devontae Smith and then the other wide receiver out of Alabama who got hurt unfortunately. Waddle. Yeah, Jalen Waddle. I mean that's just tough, two tough acts to follow. If Devontae Smith couldn't have filled Jalen Waddle's shoes, which we did have doubts for. I mean, we talked about it after Waddle got hurt. We're like,
I didn't know how good Devontae Smith was. I thought
No.
Jalen Waddle was the better of the two.
Yeah. Well, now Devontae Smith has shown everyone, but still, any other year, Elijah Moore wins the Biletnikoff Award. It's just and to be honest, I think this is Ole Miss games to lose because that offense is just their passing offense. Their run offense is not really there, but their passing offense is totally there. And I just don't think Indiana's defense can stop that.
Yeah, I feel you. But yeah, if I was Indiana, I'd be a little mad. But yeah, I mean, everyone wants to talk about like what percentage of Mac Jones stats went to Don Smith. I mean, what percentage of Matt Corral's stats went to Elijah Moore? I mean, it has to be more than half, or more than the percentage of Jalen or Devonta Smith for Mac Jones. But he's been great this year. He's a smaller guy, but he'll be a slot player at the next level. So. And the next one, we have the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl, number 25, Oregon versus Iowa State. Player to watch, Brock Purdy, quarterback, Iowa State. I really wish USC would have won this one. I would have loved to see USC play Iowa State, but this is what we get. Like I said, this would have been a better game if it was USC versus Iowa State, but Oregon beat them and won the Pac-12. Iowa State has to have a bad taste in their mouth after losing the way they did in the Big 12 championship game. And I think this is a game where it's going to come down to who wants to be there more. And I don't necessarily know if Oregon wants to be there more. I
completely agree with that. I think Iowa State wants to be there more. I mean, they're ranked 10th in the country, which they have to be riding high, and they're going up against a team like Oregon, who over these years has been. I think this is the first year in like the last 4 or 5 that they've been ranked outside the top 10 or 15. Yeah, I could be wrong, but I don't remember the last time Oregon wasn't ranked in the top 10 or in the top 10.
It definitely wasn't last year because Herbert. There was talk of them sneaking into the playoffs last year. I remember that.
Yeah, and I mean, I just think this year it's like, well, we're here, cool. Like, this isn't our year, but we'll get them next year type. Like the energy that's around Oregon, but I think Iowa State's going to want it more this year. I mean, they're ranked 10th. I think this is the second highest they've ever been. I'm pretty sure a couple years ago they were ranked.
I think they were in the top 5 one time when they beat an Oklahoma State team that had Whedon Des Bryant, I think.
Yeah.
And they were in top 5. But I totally agree. And the reason I have Brock Purdy as a player to watch, Brock Purdy's been solid for, I think he's a senior this year for 3 or 4 years.
Uh-huh.
The way he ended that final, I don't know if you saw it, the way he ended that final drive in that Big 12 championship game, it was just like the thing he just flew it in the air, and there was still like almost a minute left in the game. Yeah. He made a lot of bad mistakes. In Breece Hall, I mean, Oklahoma, credit to Oklahoma, they have a better defense this year than they've had. Yeah. So I mean, Iowa State. I felt bad. They could have easily won that game, and they just didn't.
Right. Yep.
which until we get Oklahoma who wins it for the 6th straight time.
Mhm.
Everyone talks about like Alabama in the SEC or Ohio State in the Big Ten or Clemson in the ACC. Well, Oklahoma is on the level with them with when it comes to conferences. So, and
Yep.
then I think the last one we have, yes, is the Capital One Orange Bowl. This is also another one I'm really looking forward to, actually. Number 13 North Carolina versus 5 Texas A&M. I put the player to watch as Sam Howell, but I want to take that back and I want to put Texas A&M running back Isaiah Spiller and North Carolina running backs Javonte Williams and I can't think of the other guy's name.
But no, I think you're right. I mean, I think this is Isaiah Spiller's game to kind of show and make a push for a first round selection this year in the draft. He's been off and on this year, and he's shown really good bursts in games, and then other games it's just like he's super quiet, kind of like Chuba Hubbard. But I think this is his game to kind of show out and say, hey, I'm one of the best backs in the league. I'm at least top 5 in consideration, and maybe even top 3.
Yeah. So I mean that should be a game, but I mean the 2 running backs at North Carolina, Michael Carter and Javonte Williams. I mean they were incredible. I mean the offense was incredible for most of the year, anyways. But they both had well over 1,000 yards rushing, and they combined for 28 touchdowns together. So I mean. You don't find that a lot. I mean, the only thing I can think of, and it's not just a Browns thing, but I mean, just because I'm from Cleveland, but you rarely see it in the NFL and you rarely see it in college where 2 backs can kind of split the carries. I mean, it's what Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt do. That's what Javonte Williams and Michael Carter do. So, I mean, they'll both be number first round picks, I would think, but I think they're both coming back next year. At least one of them is. And then Sam Howell's coming back, and I think at least one of the receivers is coming back. Yeah. And they have a pretty good recruiting class. So, I think North Carolina will be a top 10 team next year, too. It's incredible when Mac Brown's been able to do what like 70-year-old Mac Brown's been able to do. While you have these other coaches like Mike Norvell, they go for. I mean, Florida State was already in a bad hole, so it's not a fair one, really. But Mike Norvell is 35, and he can go. Can't get Florida State to a win. So, but Mac Brown hasn't coached in 15 years and goes to North Carolina for 3 years, and they're a top 10 team. So we're gonna cut this down a little bit. We'll skip the semifinal kind of edges that I have. And then do you want to do All Americans or do you want to do the awards this week and we'll do the other one next week?
Can we do the awards this week? I think that I feel like, some of these games, I feel like we could do a whole episode on just first team All Americans and going through like why we selected who we selected.
Yeah, I just put a lot of stuff in this outline just because I didn't know what we wanted to cover and what we didn't want to cover. I was like, if it's there, we want to cover it. But I think you have to work today, right?
Yeah,
that's why. Okay, my bad. I figured.
No, you're good.
Let's go into the awards. You can kind of start it out and explain the Heisman, or not explain it, but go into it. I'm going to open. I did my final on Sunday. I did my article on like the college ranking, final playoff rankings, and like the finalists for the awards. I thought they were going to be. So I'm going to pull up that document right now, and then I'll get back to you. So go ahead.
Yeah. So the Heisman, my choice this year, I'm going to go realistic wise. I'm going to go with Najee Harris. I think it's going to come down between, in my opinion, Najee Harris and Devontae Smith, and whoever goes off more in the playoffs games, both the semifinals and the national championship game, because I just don't see Alabama losing to Notre Dame. But, I mean, he broke every single running back record at Alabama this year. And the last time a player did that was the boy who plays for the Tennessee Titans now, and Derrick Henry. And I just think even if Devontae Smith, the only way I think Devontae Smith pulls it out is if he goes off for like over 150 yards receiving in each of the games remaining for them. That's just my opinion. I just think Najee Harris this year has shown that he's doing the same exact thing that Derrick Henry did when he won the Heisman.
So I'm just gonna fill you in. The Heisman this year will be given out in a virtual ceremony on the 5th of January 2021. So they won't have the national championship game to look at, but they will have the semifinals. And the finalists will be revealed tomorrow. So they're really kind of going off final. I think
No.
they probably already know who they kind of think is going to win, but
Yep.
yeah, some let me get down to where I have my awards. Okay, here we go. So I have my 3 finalists for the awards, or did I have? I think I might have put 4 or 5. I have Devonta Smith from Alabama, Kyle Trask from Florida, Mac Jones, quarterback from Alabama, and Trevor Lawrence, quarterback from Clemson. I think Mac Jones will win. I think Kyle Trask will come in second. I think Devonta Smith will come in third, and I think Trevor Lawrence will come in fourth.
Mm-hmm.
But that's my Heisman. I don't. It wouldn't surprise me if they let Zach. What's his last name in? Wilson.
Wilson. Yeah.
Zach Wilson in. I think Justin Fields has played his way out, and I could also see them just going with 3. But then if they only go with 3, I think they'll go with 3 quarterbacks. I think they'll go with Trask, Jones, and Lawrence.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I mean that's cool. We have very different
Yeah.
opinions on that. Not really opinions, just kind of different thoughts on that.
Yeah.
So
I just got actually a breaking news text. University of Arizona is naming Jed Fish, who is the Patriots QB coach, as their new head coach. They are expecting to announce the hire today. That just came out from Schefter. Sorry, I just got the notification.
No, that's fine. I'm just looking who this guy is.
Jed Fish is the Patriots QB coach. I guess Arizona. I know they were looking for a coach. That's surprising in my opinion.
Well, that's weird for a guy to go from. Well, looks like he's all at. Oh no, he coached UCLA. Okay, he coached at UCLA, but he was NFL before anything. And then he went to the He was the offensive coordinator, QB coach, when I think Chip Kelly first went there in 2017. So, and then but no, I mean that's a good hire. Anyone from the Patriots is a good hire. He's young. He's 44, which isn't as young to the college kids as it is to the NFL players. Like Sean McVay's like 32, but. No, I mean you can't go wrong. I don't think, especially hiring someone from the Patriots organization, or just kind of really anyone you can get that's a good position coach to be your head coach. Like basically, it happened the opposite way for Cliff Kingsbury. He went from being a terrible head coach to an offensive coordinator at USC to a head coach of the NFL. So, yeah, I think that's good. That's awesome. But the coach of the year, my finalists are Tom Allen, Indiana, Jamie Chadwell, Coastal, Luke Fickell, Cincinnati, Brian Kelly, Notre Dame, and Pat Fitzgerald, Northwestern. I think Luke Fickell will win it.
I agree with that.
You agree? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I just think Luke Fickell, what he's done for that Cincinnati team this year has, I think I knew they were going to be an okay team this year, but I think they blew away all expectations by being, finishing within the top 10 this year. Desmond Ridder really showed out this year, really developed more as a thrower, became more accurate, actually knew how to read the field. And what he's done in, this year alone, just I think wins him the award. Yeah, no,
he's done an incredible job there. And he's actually done really well, which Cincinnati has never done well in the past. He's done really well at recruiting in Cincinnati. Like Ohio is obviously one of the top 5, 6, 7 hotbeds, but you obviously have your Columbus schools, your Cincinnati schools, and your Cleveland area, Northeast Ohio schools. And before that, I mean, you had you don't know them, or maybe you do, like St. Xavier, Princeton. All those are Cincinnati teams. They would usually go to Ohio State or they go down to Kentucky. He's recruited really well and got a lot of those guys to go to the Bearcats. So it's good for him. Next award I have is the Doak Walker. My 3 finalists are Jarrett Patterson from Buffalo, I mean, it's crazy to think that he played in 6 games and had 19 touchdowns, and or I think more than 19 touchdowns and 1,000 yards. I mean, if you just double that, that's 2,000 yards. I mean, that's crazy. He won't win it, but that's crazy.
Still a huge stat line for the kid.
Yeah, and Brees Hall, running back Iowa State, and Najee Harris, RB Alabama. I want it to be Brees Hall really bad or Jarrett Patterson, but I think it'll be Najee Harris. Kind of how I said this is the Najee Harris award just a second ago instead of the Doak Walker, but
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think depending on who they announce tomorrow as the finalist, if Najee Harris is in consideration and he ends up somehow pulling out the Heisman, then I think Bryce Hall wins the Doak Walker Award. Like as you said beforehand, it's like whoever wins the award, the player in their second, like behind them. As
yeah.
I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit, but we both have Trevor Lawrence winning the Davey O'Brien Award if Mac Jones wins the award. But
Mhm.
if Najee Harris wins the Heisman, Mac Jones wins the Davey O'Brien Award.
Yeah, and Brees Hall wins the Doak Walker.
Exactly.
And
So,
Devonta Smith wins. I think Devonta Smith wins the Blitnikoff no matter what. So,
oh yeah, no, I think that's the only award that if he wins the Heisman, he'll also win the Biletnikoff, just because Elijah Moore is the only person that could come close. I don't even know if you have another finalist with him.
I
In
put
my
Garrett
mind,
Wilson.
I think. What were you saying?
I think I put Garrett Wilson as the third one. I don't know if there's going to be another finalist. I don't know,
Yeah.
yeah, I just put Garrett Wilson there. It could be Chris Olave. It could be Amari Rogers from Clemson. It could be Tylan Wallace from Oklahoma State. I don't know. But the next one, I'm pretty sure we're unanimous in this one as well. The Mackey Award, Kyle Pitts, Florida.
Yep. Yep. No other tight end has been as dominant as Kyle Pitts this year. Really came into his own. He should have won it last year, but of course, due to a technicality, he didn't. But Kyle Pitts has just been dominant all year. He's really worked on his run blocking ability, even though they didn't use him a lot for it. But he's still, again, huge body. Will definitely be playing on Sundays coming in this draft. Hopefully the Pats can actually pick him up at 15 or 16 since they're picking there.
He'll be gone.
No,
You know who I have seen though? I mean, I've seen Jamar Chase stumble a little bit in some recent mocks.
Yeah.
But because of how the quarterback situation is going to play out. But
Yeah.
and the next two I have is the Outland Trophy for the best interior lineman and the Remington for the best center. I have the same guy winning both of them. He is Tyler Linderbaum. He's a center for Iowa. I think he's a 2 or 3 year starter. Basically, if you look at PFF's stat breakdowns and their rankings, he's heads and shoulders above everyone else in passing. He's head and shoulders above everyone else in his combined score of passing blocking and run blocking. So,
Yeah, I mean I don't know if you've watched his game. Like I've been looking at the linemen this year for interior versus and seeing, Tyler Linderbaum has definitely outplayed. And I mean, you mentioned it earlier, the center for Alabama,
Landon
Dickerson. I mean, this Tyler Linderbaum has actually shown better technique and better ability to climb to the second level than the kid out of Alabama, which is surprising in my eyes. Because I didn't really, I heard about him last year, but besides that, I didn't see him being like a top center or / interior lineman. But this year, he's made a huge jump. His ability to communicate on the ball and get his guys at guard and tackles to really, see the defense how he sees it is really impressive in my eyes. I think he definitely will turn into like a Jason Kelsey or even a Travis Frederick who played for the Cowboys and just retired. But
yeah, well, the best center now is one of the best one. There are two of them. Ryan Kelly from Alabama. He's 27. He's pretty good. And Rodney Hudson from Florida State's okay. And then obviously Alex Mack's okay. The Pounceys are okay. But the younger guys, Eric McCoy is a center. He's pretty good. Texas A&M. and then Frank Ragnow out of Wisconsin is probably the best young guy.
Yeah.
But no, he was he's been really good this year, and I think Pete, the NFL is starting to. Well, we got 10 more minutes here, and then I'm going to wrap everything up because I know you got to work. But um, I think the NFL is starting to look. I feel like they always just used to look at the left tackles basically in the first round of the draft, and now you've had guys like, Quentin Nelson and other interior guys that are actually just so much better. So I think the not pendulum is swinging, but I think it's more balancing out that the tackles are just as important as the interior linemen, which is not how I thought. I don't think as many people viewed it. So I think it'll be a first round pick, or if not, an early second round pick. For the Dick Butkus Award as the best linebacker, I have Zaven Collins of Tulsa. This is a weird award because it's not supposed to be given to edge defenders. So Zaven Collins is just a natural outside linebacker. He grades out incredibly well, covering the pass, and he grades out in the top 5 in covering in stopping the run. And he played for a pretty good Tulsa team this year too. So, and he's big. So that's who I've had, and I've watched a lot of these awards. Obviously, I don't really know. Wasn't looking out for Zaven Collins, but I mean, once I kind of started giving awards out and looking at him, I watched some highlights on him. And he's pretty good. So, I like Zaven Collins out of Tulsa.
I haven't been really watching the linebackers this year, but I'll trust your judgment. Yeah.
There's. I mean, the only other ones I can think of, Nick Bolton from Missouri is pretty good. Jeremiah Owusu Koromoa. I know how to say his name now because he's probably going to be a Brown next year.
Yeah.
He's more of an edge defender, but he lines up all over the field. And then you have guys like Dylan Moses at Alabama, who just Alabama's defense is very beatable this year. That's what the thing is. It's like you can beat Alabama's defense this year. You just can't beat their offense. So, but moving on, the Ted Hendricks Award. This is a newer award, I believe. This is also given to the best defensive end, also not edge rusher, but defensive end. I guess there's a difference. I don't know. But my finalists, I believe, I don't know if I had Ted Hendricks on here. My finalists are Rashad Weaver, defensive end Pitt, Zion Tupuola Fetui, defensive end Washington, and Taron Jackson, defensive end Coastal Carolina. Taron Jackson from Coastal Carolina, I believe, is going to win it. He's had an incredible year. He's only a sophomore, I believe, and he really kind of sets the edge for that Coastal Carolina defense, which can be very good because make no ifs, ands, or buts about it, BYU's offense is good.
Yeah.
So I think goes to Taron Jackson, but like I said, with how the NFL labels everything now, they have to change awards around. Like I don't think he's probably the best edge rusher. It's probably Osu Koromoa, or one of the Clemson backers from the outside. But sticking to that award, I think it'll be Taron Jackson. He's had a good year. He should also be a number 1 first round pick next year if he goes.
I mean, I didn't watch him a lot this season, but after what he did in that BYU game, I really started looking at his film and started seeing he is very he needs to learn a couple secondary and third moves. I mean, he's got a good repertoire right now, but again, that stuff, he's a young player and he will definitely be coached well in the NFL wherever he goes. And I think he'll make probably an immediate impact wherever he goes because of just his size and strength and speed at that level.
It's always weird. Like the guys who win these awards at the end of the year in the ESPN award show, which I did have up, like they're usually the older guys and the better players. But they end up going to the better teams because they're not as valued high as, say, someone else, kind of like that. But played for a bad team, but was really, really good, like physically and everything like that. So, yeah. And with that, we head on to the next one, which is the Thorpe Award, the best defensive back. I had my eyes on Patrick Surtain, the second all year. But
Yep.
Elijah Molden from Washington has been insane. He plays safety for them. He plays corner for them. Not only does he play safety and corner, when he's in a corner, he plays the slot, which is the hardest position to guard as a cornerback or a man receiver. He's been amazing. So I have Elijah Molden, but I had
Yeah.
Patrick Surtain for a lot of the year.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I think Patrick Surtain is kind of he'll still be probably the first corner off the board, but for some reason he just hasn't looked like his usual self the second half of the season, and Elijah Molden has. He's played up a lot. And again, as you said, he's playing the slot for a corner, which is very difficult in this day and age because of how fast these slot corner receivers are. But I mean, he's stuck with them, so I think he'll definitely be a late first round, even maybe second round pick this year, early second round pick.
Okay, and then like I said,
I don't know with how many needs that the NFL needs right now.
that's a guy. That's the thing. Like a guy like J.C. Horn, who played at South Carolina, who just has the physical tools, will almost definitely go ahead of like a guy like Elijah Molden, and so will a Sean Wade at Ohio State. But like that's a different conversation for a different time. We got 5 more minutes, so I'm gonna read these off, especially these next two. Groza, best kicker, Gabe Burkich, Oklahoma. And the best punter, Zach Von Rosenberg, LSU. I just like his name a lot, and I like LSU players. You have anything on those?
No. I'll let you keep reading.
So the Maxwell, I think they give Zach Wilson kind of a pity award here. He could also get the Davey O'Brien, whereas Trevor Lawrence could get the Maxwell, and Zach Wilson would get the Davey O'Brien. Really, what the awards need to do this year is just split the 3 quarterback awards, the Heisman, the Maxwell, which isn't always a quarterback award, but has been lately, and then Davey O'Brien into, Mac Jones with the Heisman. Davey O'Brien goes to Lawrence, and then Maxwell goes to Wilson. So it's just kind of what I have. The Czech Bednarik Award is for the best defensive player. Like I said, some of these are like their own entities. Like the Ray Guy and the Groza and the Thorpe are their own entities as an award. I mean, they still get presented, but they have like their own committee and everything.
Right.
And this is the Czech Bednarik. It has that. I think the best defensive player this year has been Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, the edge linebacker from Notre Dame.
Yep.
And a lot of people are saying that he is going to be the next oh my God, what's his name? Who's the Derwin James. He's going to play safety at the next level somehow. So I don't know, but he's definitely good. And then Davey O'Brien, like we said, best quarterback. These could all be flipped around, whatever, but I'll give this one to Trevor Lawrence. So
I agree with that.
I'm gonna go over the final top 25, and then we'll do trivia questions each, and we're out of here, and we'll see you next week. Final top 25: 1 Alabama, 2 Clemson, 3 Ohio State, 4 Notre Dame, 5 Texas A&M, 6 Oklahoma, which should be either Cincinnati or Florida. It's stupid. 7 Florida, 8 Cincinnati, 9 Georgia, 10 Iowa State, 11 Indiana, 12 Coastal, 13 North Carolina, 14 Northwestern, 15 Iowa, 16 BYU, 17 USC, 18 Miami, Florida, 19 Louisiana, 20 Texas, 21 Oklahoma State, 22 San Jose State, 23 NC State, 24 Tulsa, and 25 Oregon. And now let's get into our trivia questions. Like I said, we have 2 each. Do you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
I'll let you go first.
Okay. All right. Of these Final Four teams, list them by most playoffs in most to least. Playoffs appearances.
Most to least. I'm going to say most is Alabama and Clemson. Second most would be Ohio State.
How many do they have?
What?
How many do they have?
Alabama or Clemson?
Yeah, both.
6.
Okay.
Ohio State in third, and then Notre Dame last.
How many does Ohio State have, and how many does Notre Dame have?
Ohio State has 5, and Notre Dame has 2.
You were so close to getting it all right.
Um,
Ohio State only has 4.
okay.
They got in 1 year when they didn't win the Big Ten, and I think they've won the Big Ten all the other years. The 1 year they didn't win the Big Ten, they lost to Penn State, and Penn State didn't get in. They were pissed off. I don't even remember that. All right, you can go ahead.
Which FBS quarterback holds the record for most career yards in a time span?
In a time span. What?
Yeah, in his college football career. At 20,114.
Is this a newer guy?
No.
Um,
The time frame was 2007 to 2011. Hold on, I can give you the conference too. They are in the AAC.
2011 AC. I don't know. UCF quarterback.
No.
Who is it?
Case Keenum.
2007, 2011, he was still in college?
Yeah. He 19,217 passing yards and 897 rushing yards.
Played for Houston. That team was crazy. All right, my last one. Name 6 of the 8 teams that finished higher in the AP poll than the final college football playoff rankings.
Oh.
These aren't that hard.
Oh, I know. So can you just repeat it one more time? You said name the 6 teams.
6 of the 8 teams that finished higher in the AP poll than the final college football playoff rankings.
Oh, I didn't pay that much attention. Well, I know. I want to say one of them's definitely Indiana.
Yes.
I just want to. What is it?
You're on the right track
I am.
with saying Indiana, that kind of team.
Okay. Iowa State.
No.
Not Iowa State.
Okay, I will say you got Indiana, and they by far play in the biggest conference over the rest of these 8 teams by playing in the Big Ten.
Is one of them? This is just. I didn't pay that much attention to the full rankings.
You got 10 seconds.
I'll go with Coastal Carolina, Northwestern, Iowa, Louisiana, and San Jose State.
You got 4 of them.
Okay.
You got Indiana, Coastal, San Jose State, and Louisiana.
Okay.
The other ones were Cincinnati,
Okay.
BYU, and Liberty, and Tulsa.
Okay. Got it.
Liberty was number 23 in the AP, was not ranked in the college football playoff poll. Tulsa was 22 in the AP, 24 in the college football playoff. San Jose was 19 in the AP, 22 in the college football playoff. Louisiana was 16 in the AP, 19 in the college football playoff. BYU was 13 in the AP, 16 in college football playoff. Coastal was 9 in the AP, 12 in the college football playoff. Indiana was 7 in the AP, 11 in college football playoff. Cincinnati was 6 in the AP, 8 in the college football playoff.
All right. My last question is, Who holds the single game yards mark for total yards in a game for the FBS?
So yeah, that includes kickoff returns.
No, just on like an offensive position.
So passing, receiving, or passing and running.
Passing, rushing.
What year was it?
2016.
Lamar Jackson.
Nope.
Mariota. It's the only one I got.
Nope. Patrick Mahomes, Texas S versus Oklahoma on October 22nd.
Oh, a game. See, I was thinking. Okay.
734 passing yards and 85 rushing yards.
Yeah, did you ever see Baker Mayfield's stats in that game?
No. They were close, though. They were very close.
Yeah, he had 8 touchdowns.
Yeah.
All right, so that's gonna do it for us this week. Like I said, New Year's Day is next. So today's 25th. Next Friday is New Year's Day. Then.
Yeah.
So we'll all have. We'll think of probably next Wednesday, maybe, or Tuesday, but we'll let you guys know for sure when we're gonna, kind of do our last like actual in-season one. No, we'll do 2 more because we'll do one before the national championship too.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we will be closing out.
We could also do a live one for the winner of the Heisman.
Yeah, well, you're always working or never near your computer.
Well, the second's technically my last day because they haven't announced who they're keeping yet, so we'll see.
All right. Well, we'll work all that out, but like I said, you know where to follow us. It's on there. So go ahead and do that. Follow us, Brown J, Cuter Jacob, and then number 4, TH and Long Pod. We'll keep you all updated. I am right now my original second round of the alternative playoff never got posted. It's somehow still in the articles that haven't been put up yet. So I am in the middle of, or basically at the end of finishing. We're doing it over. We're starting the first week, but we're doing 8 teams by the rankings of college football playoff. I've gotten through. I'm on 3 versus 6. Ohio State versus Oklahoma. It would be an awesome 8-team playoff. I'm going to tell you that right now. But that article should be up today or tomorrow. So make sure you go vote on that. I'll extend voting until next weekend when we meet, whatever it will be, Tuesday or Wednesday. And like I said, follow us on our social medias. And I'll update the big board. I got some new markers. I actually got a new big board for the basketball podcast I'm going to do. But and yeah, just vote. Social media. We'll tell you guys our plans for next week in the national title. Maybe. Thank God I didn't buy a ticket to fly out to Rose Bowl.
Yeah,
that would have been very bad.
Yeah, it would
have. But that's gonna do it for us. Jake, you got anything else, man?
No, just stay safe, everyone. And since we won't get to you guys before Christmas, I hope everyone has a great Christmas. And for those who don't celebrate Christmas but celebrate Hanukkah, happy Hanukkah to everyone who does.
What about other religions? What about Kwanzaa?
Well, yeah, I mean, happy Kwanzaa Day.
Then why did you single out? Why did you single out Christmas and Hanukkah?
Wow,
there's things going on behind the scenes here. That's all I gotta say.